I used to be a bit of a chunky monkey in my early days. And I used to play club rugby and got injured. I bust my shoulder playing rugby. So after that, it was, what do we do to try and keep kind of fit? So I took up running and over the years went from a mile to 5 miles to half marathon to marathon. Then then one particular year I came across the Windermere Marathon, which led me to the Bred 10 in 10. And the first time you hear about it, you think it's just nuts. You know, why on earth would you do something like that? That's what I'm thinking.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Chatzzz. And we've got a very special guest today, Craig Johnson. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So I think we connected, was it a month ago, a few weeks ago?
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's such a great platform, isn't it? Just connect people.
It is. You connect for people all over the region that you wouldn't normally.
So what I'm going to get you to do is introduce yourself to the viewers or the listeners. If you're meeting someone for the first time, how would you do that?
My name's Craig Johnson. I'm a self-employed web developer, software developer for a business called Iosys Web Technologies. And we're based just up the road from Lake Windermere. And we develop all manner of websites, business management systems, that kind of geeky stuff.
Nice. It's so hot in here, you know. I'm sweating.
It's quite warm.
I'm going to drench this, so I apologise in advance. So what I prepped you for is the 3 facts.
Indeed.
And you said you didn't find them too hard to prepare, did you?
No, it's just finding something remotely interesting to talk about. But yeah.
Right, go for it. What are the 3 facts?
I guess the most interesting thing in my claim to semi-fame, I suppose, or infamy or whatever you want to call it, is I ran 10 marathons in 10 days twice. So for the Bred Trust, they have an annual event, which is the Bred 10 in 10. And I was fortunate enough to be selected twice to run that on behalf of the Bred Trust. And we raised £25,000 for the Bred Trust in that across 2013 and 2015. There are people that have done it many, many more times than I have. So, but I'm quite proud of that achievement.
Yeah, that's impressive. How did that come about then? To do it in the first place? Did you have to apply? Or did someone approach you?
Yeah, it came about through running in the past. So way back when I used to be a bit of a chunky monkey in my early days. And I used to play club rugby and got injured. I bust my shoulder playing rugby. So after that, it was, what do we do to try and keep kind of fit? So I took up running and over the years went from a mile to 5 miles to half marathon to marathon. Then one particular year I came across the Windermere Marathon, which led me to the Bred 10 in 10. And the first time you hear about it, you think it's just nuts. You know, why on earth would you do something like that?
That's what I'm thinking.
But then you learn more about the charity, about what the charity does for the underprivileged and disadvantaged youth of the country. And it's okay, well, this could be doable. This could be doable. And then you have to apply and you get selected. You can't just buy your way in. And I was fortunate enough to be selected in 2012. The event took place in May of 2013 and it was going all right until sort of day 8 when the wheels fell off. And on day 10, I had to walk the last 8 miles because I thought my leg was going to explode because my left quad decided it was going to lock up and wouldn't release at all. So I managed to walk the last 8 miles of day 10 the first time around, and it kind of haunted me for months. And then it was right.
Or just that you had to walk the final 8 miles.
Yeah, and it was the one and only event I've ever walked across the finish line, and it bothered me a lot.
I can imagine, just mentally you'd be thinking.
Yeah. So I applied again in 2015, got in, and laid those demons to rest.
What was it like training? How do you train for something like that?
It's very repetitive. It's a bit like Groundhog Day. It's just literally putting the miles in, just running multiple times a day, creeping the mileage up until you're at a point where because I talk about my wife as well, because she did it in 2015. But we go out for runs of 20 miles plus of a weekend just in trainings. And when you look back at it, it's kind of crazy that you get to that point when you can run a marathon at a weekend just for kicks.
Yeah.
And I probably struggle to run a bath now. to be honest.
But yeah, so tell us about then the charity then. Obviously, you could probably run 10 marathons in 10 days or whatever. Was it specific that charity you wanted to do that for? Or
The charity and the challenge go hand in hand, really.
Okay.
I mean, it's quite a well-known challenge within the running industry. And it is 10 consecutive marathons, so it's the same route day after day.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like Groundhog Day. So it's the same route, the same cambers, the same potholes. And you get into a routine of doing the same thing day after day after day. But the charity, yeah, they're based at Braithey Hall, just outside Ambleside, and they help disadvantaged and underprivileged kids, young adults, young people that have probably just one side of the line, the wrong side of the line, and help them back. And all the money that is raised through the charity goes into changing their lives. And it truly is a place that is truly life-changing for a lot of people, including myself. It was a life-changing experience for myself.
That's amazing. So then the second fact, I'd want to top that first one.
Well, yeah, start at the top and work down. Born and bred in Leicestershire, bred and buttered in Leicestershire, and we moved up to the Lakes in 2019 when we happened to be up doing some training for the 10 in 10, which would have been my third attempt at the 10 in 10. But in the end, I bailed out because we moved to the Lakes and then just enjoying the Lake District. But yeah, it was a chance conversation with a landlord of what is now our local.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity not to turn down. So we moved up in 2019 and bought the business with us.
Nice. Did you enjoy living in Leicester?
Yeah, we lived in northwest Leicestershire, sunny Leicestershire as I call it. And yeah, it's Leicestershire itself is very multicultural. Leicester as a city is very, very multicultural. Has fantastic curry houses, which we've struggled to find up here. Actually, it's one of the few things we miss about Leicestershire is a good curry house.
It's a simple thing.
It is, but we have found one now. But that's good.
Nice. Are you a football fan?
A rugby fan.
Rugby, I was going to say, because Leicester don't have a great football team at the moment, do they?
I'm more of a Tigers fan. But from the sidelines, I'm not an active follower, but I enjoy rugby more.
Yeah. And third fact?
Third fact, I'm going to check my list.
Yeah, you get the notes.
Just really that I'm a bit of a geek.
Yeah.
I enjoy all things science, space, astronomy, geology, archaeology. I find that utterly fascinating. And I see that as my reality TV. Not the alternative reality TV that's
like Love Island
that is all over the place nowadays. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a bit of a geek.
So have you always been into that then since you were younger?
Always been into tech and computers, basically. Yeah. My father, when I'm old enough to know life before the internet and the life before computers.
Yes.
And when dial-up was amazing. But yeah, I was cajoled to go to a computer club when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And it kind of all spawned from that, really. And that's the only thing I've ever really been good at.
Yeah.
I have no practical skills whatsoever. And it's a bit of a
you and me both.
bit of a joke in our house, but I'd like to think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to tech.
Yeah. So then when you were 7, 8 years old, then what was like your first memory, or did you want to do it? You said you were cajoled. Did you enjoy that kind of side of things?
Yeah.
Or was it more like push?
No, I was cajoled first of all because I guess like most kids at that age, they're either playing outside or just want to sit watching TV all day. But I guess my father at the time, well, not at the time, still is my father. But at the time, my father, he kind of saw that this was the way that the world was going, and he pushed me towards a computer club at a local technical college. And when computers were, the size of filing cabinets, and so kind of learned to program in a very, very basic language. And on the back of that, there was always games to play, really basic games to play. And it all spawned from that, really. And yeah.
Because was it, say in them days, you'd have like a computer in a room and you'd like take turns in it? Or was that like, well,
it was probably a little bit after that. I mean, the computers were certainly very, very large things. But then when I was at primary school, when computers were coming in, there was the old, if anybody remembers, the old BBC Model B computers, and that was the thing.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough, one Christmas, my parents bought me one of those same computers, which was the same thing we were using at primary school. And the deal was I could play games after I'd done an hour of programming.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So there was an incentive to do stuff other than just get goggle eyes watching playing games. Yeah.
Yeah, that's clever. So then, say when you're like 7, 8 years old, you only do stuff because you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah.
You can't be forced to do something when you're that age. Otherwise, you just throw your toys out the pram. So can you remember what you enjoyed specifically about that?
I enjoyed the gaming aspect. I enjoyed
just literally that give and take.
I enjoyed the gaming aspect after it. I mean, at the time, I didn't really appreciate the programming aspect of it. It was a means to an end.
Yeah.
But I guess some of the teachers at the school kind of saw a spark there, because I was approached to do small. I remember once I was approached to do a weather database for the school. Just to say, was it sunny today and what was the temperature? And, I was the little kid that they came to and said, can you build us a database? So that was interesting looking back. Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility. I mean, just back.
Yeah. I think it was just a project, but I guess they saw something as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm no genius, but they saw a spark back then.
So then when you progressed throughout school, then how did your love or interest for this kind of develop over time?
It's always been there. I would say I was average at school. I wasn't an A student by any means. I did a year of A levels and I dropped out after 12 months because I got bored and wanted a proper job that would pay money.
Okay.
And then I got, my kind of first kind of job was a office junior, starting at the bottom, making the tea, doing the post for a mail order company. And it kind of grew from there really. And wherever I've been, all the jobs I have been, up until the point I got what I call a real job in IT. Not this one, but the one before. I've always dealt with the IT systems and the computer systems of the companies I've worked with. So it's always been something that's been with me wherever I've gone. And it's all been self-taught as well. So that's quite fortunate.
Yeah. So then when you go through school, then do you have any aspirations or any specific career that you wanted to do? Because like you say, you went to A level, obviously, but then when you left, you said you just got a job. Was there anything that you really wanted to do when you were growing up? Say for me, I really wanted to be a footballer. That obviously didn't work out, but
it's a bit geeky. I wanted to be a telecoms engineer.
Okay.
Because just that kind of sort of networking sort of thing and working with technology, again, I saw being that is a really interesting thing to do. And at the time we were looking for a work experience, but they didn't have any. Or they couldn't find one. So that particular week we spent, myself and a friend, spent a week in a chemistry lab blowing things up.
That's what work experience is about.
in controlled circumstances, in controlled conditions. But
disclaimer in there.
It was a great week.
So, like progressing throughout school, you said obviously you're a bit of a geek. Did you enjoy anything like outside of school? What did you do? Or was it just like the programming? You said you enjoyed rugby. Did you play rugby? Or
played rugby, sort of early 20s that I got into that. But before I was probably a bit of a slobby teenager.
Yeah.
Used to sit in my room playing computer games. I used to go out on sort of a mountain biking at the time, just like standard kind of mountain bike kind of thing, but nothing overly interesting that you'd write a book about.
So then going to A levels, it's obviously like schools make it such an important time in your life, isn't it? When you're like 16 or 18 to say you need to do this or what do you want to be or what do you want to do? And when you're like 16, 17, 18, you don't have a clue, do you really?
You don't.
So when you went to A level, was it just, AS level or whatever? Was it that just because you felt like you had to do it, or did you really want to do it? Or
I went to A levels because I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career or as a job. So it was almost like a stopgap. So I had two subjects. So I had a lot of free time, to be fair, and ended up with one subject. And then at the end of to the start of the second term, I just lost all interest. I thought I'll just get any job just to earn some money and start getting in the world of work, really.
Yeah. So was it just literally you want to just get out in the real world and earn some money, or was there no plan of actually anything?
No, I really didn't know at that time what I wanted to do. It was always a thing that one day I would love to have my own business, but I didn't know what that business would ever be.
Okay. Where do you think that came from, wanting to have your own business? Was that from a young age or when you got older?
I think it was probably just wanting to do my own thing. Again, no more of a driver than that, really.
Yeah. think similar with me, like when I look back, I always like doing my own thing. Like say when I was at primary school, I'd make like paper phones and sell them at school for like 2 or 5p. And then I'd draw like footballers, sell them to people at schools, or sell them like Live Strong, Beat Bullying bands, or sell sweets at schools. I just like to do my own thing and just spend a little bit of money here and there. Whereas at the time it was just normal because I wanted to do it. Like say, we were saying earlier, when you were kids, you only do what you want to do. But it's interesting when you say that you've always wanted to do your own thing and you've ended up with your own business. It's one of them things I feel like people just got it in them, haven't they? Like it's just the way they are.
Yeah, I think you're either a kind of person and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, that's quite happy to work for somebody else, go to work, do your job, go home and have your life outside of work, and that's perfectly fine. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Or you're the person that wants to do their own thing and wants to see how they can progress themselves from that side of work. And as I say, I mean, being full-time self-employed has only been within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have worked for many, many, many years for other people and gone through the ranks and been promoted and got to a point of responsibility, etc. So that was all very good at the time as well.
Yeah.
But I think now it's, I've found my calling.
Yeah. You always do that, don't you? Everything happens for a reason and it always works out for the best in the end. So then that first proper real job then, or what was that like? How did that even come about?
My first real job was an office junior job. So it was the first thing that was available at the time. And that was for a mail order company that sold electronic instrumentation. So like thermometers and timers and things of that nature.
Exciting stuff.
It's fantastic. So I was there as an office junior and I took tech support calls and I took orders and packed boxes and sent, shipped things out a bit like, like a mail order company does.
Sure.
And I also dealt with a new quality management system that the company wanted to put in, which was BS 5750 at the time, which is now ISO 9000. And on the back of that, I was there for about 5-6 years. And then I left there to go to a completely different industry, which was medical device manufacturing, as a quality supervisor there. So literally medical equipment that was going to keep people alive. I was there for about 5 or 6 years. And then from that, I worked for another medical device manufacturer who were developing some new novel product that was going to change the world. But unfortunately, they ran out of money. And then from that, I jumped into IT proper. I was a head of IT for a regional construction firm back in Leicestershire for 15 years.
Let's just jump back slightly to that first job then. You said you were there for about 5 or 6 years, between 18 and 23-ish?
It'll be 19 to 24 kind of thing, yeah.
So 19 to 24, that's obviously like a key age, isn't it? Say late teens, early 20s, and you really grow as a person. So what did you kind of learn in that role? I know it was only the mail order company, but what did you kind of learn and how did you kind of grow as a person to then progress on to your next job?
Learned a lot about dealing with people. It was mainly it was only on the telephone because these were the days before the internet and before all of the good stuff that the internet has brought. So dealing with that, product sourcing, pricing, profitability, all of that good stuff. I was taken under the wing of my boss at the time, and that kind of grew within the business quite well.
Because then going into so when did you kind of feel that was your time done and it was time to move on? Because if you were making progression, the boss took you under his wing, you must have felt like a lot of self-worth and you were valued in the company.
I was. And I think that was at the time when I was, my ambition to go self-employed and to do my own thing kind of got the better of me. Okay. Just to be fair.
Why did you say that?
Because I looked at doing my own thing back then.
Like 24, mid-20s, something like that.
But it was not the most prudent of moves because it was in the same business as my employer at the time. So I would have been a direct competitor. Yeah. So quite a bit kicked off with that. And it was not the smartest of moves at the time. So I've learned by your mistakes.
I did that as well, kind of similar. When I worked for an events company when I finished uni that I worked for at uni. I was running my own events on the side because I went to uni in Cardiff. I was running events in Carlisle and we were putting on events like Carlisle, Bristol. That was in Cardiff, put on in Cardiff on a different day to what they put it on.
Mhm.
It all kicked off and ended terribly. I didn't get paid, and
Yeah.
it's a nightmare. So yeah, it's always best. It was separately,
Yeah.
especially if
Yeah.
you're getting like a wage and stuff. So
I didn't leave voluntarily, put it that way.
I was going to say, so that obviously at 24, you probably, well, I know when I was 24, I thought I knew everything and I'd smash it and everyone would care. What did you learn from that small period of time when you were trying to do your own thing? Because a lot of people out there and a lot of people I know think that, say, setting up a business and having a business is easy, where it's the complete opposite, and they'll maybe try it for a bit and then it won't work out, but why not try it again? And it's really key to learn from your mistakes, isn't it?
Very much so. Very much so.
And even in business now, if it's, say, going quote unquote well, you still want to make mistakes, otherwise you're not going to make progression. If you're doing so well, if you think you're doing well, you're not learning anything, you're just thinking, oh yeah, it's going really well. But then it'll come to a stage, where it's not going well and you think, oh bloody hell, maybe not as good as I thought. What?
I think it's complacency. The danger is to, from what my experience is not to allow complacency to creep in.
Yeah.
Because, the sun is not always going to be shining. And,
Like today.
Indeed. I mean, the old adage is make hay while the sun shines, and that's all very well and good, but some days it's not going to be. And I well and truly had the rug pulled from under me, and it was a big slap in the face to say, that was not the right direction to take at that time.
Yeah.
So it was put on the back burner. The working for yourself was put on the back burner for many, many years. And that's when I went into sort of quality systems, quality management, and went into the manufacturing industry.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I found it quite interesting, actually. Probably more so because the quality management is very structured, and there's very procedures and processes, and you have to follow it. And it goes X, Y, and Z, and that kind of fits in with my kind of CDO, because it's not OCD, because CDO is the right way. It's
got CDO, something like that?
OCD, but alphabetic. But
that makes sense stuff. I was thinking CD, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. But so that worked really well. And the medical device side of things was also fascinating. The manufacturing processes that went into that. And I did that for across the two different businesses, probably about 7 or 8 years.
So you stick around for a long time.
I was never one of these people to flip between jobs.
Really. And then next you went into a similar kind of industry.
Then I jumped again. The second business, they went out of, they bust, they ran out of money. So I saw a small advert in a local newspaper wanting an IT manager. And I thought, well, I can do that because I've got all this experience, just self-taught experience. And I was fortunate enough to get the job, and I was there for 15 years in the construction firm. So a completely different industry again. So I learned a bit about the construction industry, well, a lot about the construction industry. And we were very forward, well, as the business, it was very forward thinking. So they put in technology to help the business.
Then why do you think you got that job then, if it was so like different to what you were doing? Was it just literally from your own personal experience you could speak from, or was it, I don't know?
I think it was a combination probably of the different experiences I'd had in the different industries could also be brought together. But it was ultimately the knowledge that I had in IT and how to bring that to bear. And they were looking for somebody to come in and implement new systems and make the business better from a tech perspective on site, particularly.
And what excited you about that job then when you saw it in the paper? What made you want to go after that rather than something else?
It was just to have a position where I could form it and it could be my own. I could because there was nobody before that, so I was the first IT manager within the business, so I could make it my own, and it worked really well. I was given a lot of latitude, a lot of leeway to implement things as I saw fit. I had to justify myself to the MD, but it was some good times. We did some really good stuff there.
Yes. Like what was some memorable things that you felt like you did well? Or
we implemented an accounting system on site, which from nothing at all. So we went back in the days of dial-up. So we went from dial-up to 3G to 4G on site.
That'd be hard graft, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, these are not workers' fingers. These are keyboard fingers. But yes, and that is where as well that I got first into sort of developing business database systems.
Yeah.
And we implemented a number of completely new business management systems for the business. And that's where I guess I found my niche, my calling, what I was really, really interested in getting involved in the geeky side of sort of database management, which is not everybody's cup of tea, but I
was going to say, like, it's obviously not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but why is it yours, or why do you think it's yours? Is it just because of the way your brain works?
I think that's what it is. I think my brain is wired that way. And it's not like I see the Matrix and I'm looking at the screen, but it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's just followed me through life, really. That kind of thing, it's always been there. But yeah, I can't do anything else. I couldn't put a shelf up straight, even with a spirit level.
I know
I have evidence of that. so
I know I couldn't. My dad probably couldn't. And my mum hates my dad for it, I think. But yeah. So then obviously you were there for 15 years, was it?
Mm-hmm.
So then that's obviously a big chunk of time. So you were at a couple of jobs for 5, 7, etc. And then when did your own thing finally come about?
It came about in 2017. So that I'd already had a number of sort of sideline businesses. I'd done a small photography business which was called Runner Photos.
What was that then?
I used to take photographs of runners at the end of events.
Oh, cool.
I joined a running club and got into all of that kind of thing. So I did that for a number of years. I set up a business with another sideline business with another friend, Jack Rabbit, which was an events business, running events. So we put on a number of running events throughout the year, and that was really successful until pandemic came along and then killed everything. But yeah, there came a point when my career progression ambitions were not going to be realized, and it was, now's the time. It's now or never. It's one of those moments. And so it was a big, deep breath in and leap of faith, and I left the day job, as I call it.
Yeah. Can you remember when you realized that, when was the moment, or where were you when you thought, I've had enough?
We were in the lakes.
Yeah.
We'd come up for Christmas, and it was Christmas in 2016, and we were at Christmas in sort of New Year in the lakes, and we were just walking around, and this is before we moved up. And it was, there's just more to it. There's more to it than just slogging your guts out. And so the decision was made, really. Kind of the fresh air kind of just tipped the decision. And handed my notice in the January.
What's that like?
Of 17.
Scary. Yes.
I wrote my letter out a number of times.
I can imagine.
And but I have genuinely I have nothing but praise and admiration and respect for the business I worked for and my boss at the time. And they provided a lot of opportunity, and it was a wonderful, wonderful company to work for. So it was a bittersweet, but the time was right.
Yeah. And what was the preparation like then? Because how long was it from, say, the Christmas New Year period to when you handed in your notice to when you eventually left? How long
it was 3 months.
3 months.
So yeah, I had to work 3 months, 12 weeks, 3 months.
That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was amazing how much you got done in that time. I mean, not that anything was hanging around, but no, it was, and then all of a sudden you're essentially out of work. I say out of work, but working for yourself.
Yeah. So then that 3 months, were you, say, coming home on a night, working on your own business and trying to get that ready, or what was kind of like the transition from full-time employment to self-employed?
It was on the back burner anyway. So I had little things going on in the background throughout that time, and it was only really the business at the time when I had a day job was really only a hobby.
Yeah.
And I'd do favors for friends like websites, or I'd put a small network in for a small business or something of that nature, or I'd help them out with tech support.
Yeah. That's when it's fun though, isn't it?
It is. And it does go through your mind is, can I sustain this? And can it be my income stream full time? And
it's a mindset switch, isn't it?
It is.
When it's a hobby. I was saying this to my friends literally yesterday, because he wants to get into being a tattoo artist kind of thing. And he's got a kid on the way as well. So he's saying, I'm practicing my drawing, and his friend has got his own studio and he needs to get his practice in and that kind of thing. And saying to me, you're in an ideal situation. You've got your day job to pay your mortgage and all that kind of thing. You can have it as a hobby and you love it. But then say in the future, if you do rely on that as your full-time income, your mind switches, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're relying on that to pay your mortgage and
Very
feed your
much so.
kids and your wife and that kind of thing. So yeah, how was that for you then, doing your little bits and bobs on the side to rely on
It was very different. I think I had this expectation that as soon as I went self-employed, the phone would ring and there'll be emails waiting for me.
Somebody leave us.
And the first month the phone didn't ring and there were no emails. And I'd take my phone out with me while I was mowing the lawn, and did the phone ring? Was that the phone? And it really wasn't. But then slowly but surely people started to contact me. I did all the networking group things of going around, getting your face around, but
In-person ones.
in-person networking groups.
How did you find them then? Because I'm not that anti them. I just think that everyone puts on the front and say how well they're doing and smashing this and smashing that. Whereas, say, the reason I like to do the podcast and network is you talk about things that you wouldn't talk about the network, and you get to know them as a person and what makes them tick and what they enjoy and that kind of thing, and build a relationship that way. Whereas the networking, I feel like it's very diluted. You're just one of many people there.
You are. I enjoy the networking from a structure perspective because, on certain days of certain weeks, you go and you do the networking and you talk about the business and you meet people. And that was all very, very interesting. But boiling it down, there was nothing of any substance ever came from it. So I knocked that on the head, to be fair.
Yeah. It's a lot of time as well you invest in it.
It is time.
Money.
But by far and away, word of mouth is how the business has grown.
It's the most powerful way, I think, isn't it? Word of mouth. There's nothing stronger than somebody referring you, if it's a friend or a family member or an acquaintance or whatever. So if you said like, oh yeah, I know Craig, you should speak to him. That's far more powerful than anything else.
Very much so.
I think, even though I do social media for a living. So then the first few months then, what were you thinking? Like you say, the first month you didn't hear that phone ring. You must have been shitting yourself a little bit, surely, or thinking, is this the right thing to do? Or what was your kind of mindset then?
I wasn't overly concerned within the first month or so. I'd always given myself 6 months, and that was my window. That I'd give it 6 months, take a look at it after 6 months, and if it wasn't the right way, I'd just get another job. And that was it. I'd tried. It's one of those, if you don't try, you'll never know. And you can't live your life with if, buts and maybes. You wouldn't, that cloud of regret for not trying would have been even worse, I think.
Yeah. That's one thing my mum and dad have always told me is you only regret the things you don't do. And if you do, then yes, don't enjoy it, then you learn from that movement.
Indeed. You do indeed.
So you had that phone tight in your pocket then. Can you remember that first phone call?
Yeah, and it was an acquaintance from my previous employee with construction industry. So
cool, that's right.
And I kind of half expected that the first real project would come from a construction related background, and it did. And that was a nice job to work on. And then I received a number of other small SME website kind of work, and that was great. But at the time as well, I was doing a lot of sort of technical support as well. And I was trying to be all things to all people, but it very quickly narrowed down to being development. So websites and business management systems, web app business management systems, which is now focused down even more to primarily web systems.
And when or why do you think it was important for you to narrow down into them specialist couple of things that you were doing rather than being all things to all people, like you said?
I think it's not being a jack of all trades, master of none. I think if you're known or your business is known for being the top of its game in its industry or the niche of its industry, and I think where the business works is quite niche as well, because for example, we're not mobile app developers. We don't develop mobile apps. We develop web apps. But there is a sizable amount of businesses out there that's what people are looking for, and that's where we are. So yeah.
Do you think that was important to say narrow down to help the business progress and move forward then?
I think so personally, because you can't be all things to all people. Or I don't think you can be all things to all people and do everything as well as everything else. Otherwise you're just juggling.
Yeah, especially when you're on your own, you've got a small team as well. You can't do everything, can you?
You can't.
And like you say, I think it's definitely way better if you focus on one or two or a few things and be really good at them. So then it's like, oh yeah, I need a web app. Speak to Craig, he does that. Or if you need social media videos, speak to Adam because he does that. And it's just focusing on that until you've got enough money or a big enough team to be able to branch out, isn't it? But doing it too soon, I feel like can have a detrimental effect on your business and your reputation.
Indeed.
Well. That's what you don't want, is it? That people say, oh yeah, that was rubbish. And then you wouldn't get the word of mouth recommendations.
You would not,
a lot of small businesses rely heavily on. So then how did things kind of move forward then? Like you say, you kind of niche down or focus on a specific niche. And then how have things kind of gone from there?
So from then really, we still do small websites, but we have there's two businesses, two completely separate businesses. There's Iosys, which is the web app development business. And then our sister company is EventEntry. And EventEntry is a online platform for online entry for events of all descriptions, primarily sports events at the moment. And the majority of those sports events are running events. From my background as a runner, as an event organizer. So they're two completely independent businesses, but run from the same office and the same desk, and the same phone is picked up. And that works really well. But from EventEntry has come quite a sizable project that we're working on. It's an ongoing project at the moment called Every Run Counts. And it's a new platform which is out in the wild at the moment. And it's going through sort of initial soft launch testing, initial user testing kind of phase. And it's a platform to promote and develop, or promote and encourage activity, healthy lifestyle, mental health, good, well-being.
Nice.
And that came on the back of EventEntry from being a runner and an event organizer. So that's on the Iosys side. But EventEntry is quite an interesting beast that pre-COVID and pre-pandemic, the event industry, like many industries, I suppose, were relatively buoyant. There was a lot of events going on. There was a lot of people out running events. And then the pandemic came along, and like almost every industry in the country, it ground to a halt and fell to its knees.
Yeah, literally overnight, wasn't it?
It was. And it decimated the industry. Now the event organisers that are left, and there are still a lot of them, some of them fell by the wayside, including our own business, Jackrabbit, that fell by the wayside because of the pandemic.
Including my event business as well.
Indeed. It just wasn't sustainable, unfortunately. But those event businesses are now seeing increased traffic to their events and increased signups to their events, but nowhere near what they used to be. And I think there is still a hesitation from runners in this instance to sign up 12 months ahead of an event, which is what they used to do.
Yeah.
Events would sell out 12 months ahead. But now what we're finding is that those signups are coming much, much closer to the event date itself, because I'm going to surmise is because people are reluctant to sign up so far in advance in case the event is cancelled and they don't get their money back, or they get COVID, or they get whatever happens. There is that reluctance. But unfortunately, because of that, events are being cancelled because organisers don't have sufficient advance signups to justify the expense of staging the event. So it's a bit like a perfect storm, really.
Yeah, and the cost of living crisis as well, isn't it?
It is, because everything is going up. From an event management perspective, venue fees, so the fees that parks or running tracks or race tracks, all of that's gone up. Medical cover has gone up. Insurance has gone up. Fees with governing bodies have gone up. Everything's gone up. So therefore, the event prices have got to go up to maintain a level that everybody's used to. And some people are finding that that's too much, or I'm not going to pay £30 to run a 5-mile race.
Or instead of people doing maybe 3, they might only do 1.
Indeed. Well. They pick and choose.
And I think that's the other thing about events. I can only speak from, say, like nightclub ones. It's that people just expect people are going to go. And it is a bit of a cash flow nightmare as well, because you're paying money out, aren't you, to different suppliers if you're hiring wherever it is. You're doing promotion, like advertising and that kind of thing. And then you're spending that money out in hope and expectation that people are going to sign up and give you that money back. So then, like you say, people are probably, well, in my opinion, they'll be waiting until the last minute to see if they can afford it, or if they won't miss it, so they don't get a refund on the ticket. And then by that time, these event organisers are probably having to pay various suppliers and can't afford to pay them, so having to cancel it.
Indeed, and that's the situation that a number of events are finding themselves at. Literally 2 or 3 weeks before an event, they're having to flip a coin and say, do we put it on the basis that we are going to get the sign-ups, or do we cut our losses now? And in some cases, that is what's happening. And it's a crying shame, really, but that's unfortunate, the world that we're in at the moment.
So then when did you kind of create the separate entity of EventEntry then?
EventEntry came about in 2012, which is when myself and a good friend of mine set up Jackrabbit Events, because another event organisers was actually moving from Leicestershire to Cumbria. And there was this one particular event that was going to fall by the wayside. And we said, we'll take it on. We'll do it.
Easy.
How hard can it be? And it was a small event. It was probably only about 100 people. So we took it on. But at the time, we were looking for online entry, and there wasn't anything around that I considered good enough. It was either too...
I was going to say, in what sense? Yeah.
It was either too expensive or too clunky or too complicated. And it was one of those moments where I could do this. And I designed and developed the first iteration of EventEntry over a weekend.
Easy.
And we
Can't put up a shelf though.
and we started taking entries for our first event through EventEntry.
That's so cool.
And it grew from that organically grow from that. And now we have 350, 400 events on the system.
That's cool. So then any, say, running events specifically, if they're thinking, oh, well, I'd use yours instead of anybody else, how does yours differentiate itself, or how does that benefit the organisers, would you say?
I guess a couple of the key points. We're a small independent business, and the platform, the EventEntry platform, has been developed in-house. So we're not beholden on any other software developer. And again, I'm not saying that's unique, but that's where we are. We're certainly, we pitch ourselves from a fee perspective. We charge a fee based on the entry price. So we don't charge anything else. There's no additional processing fees or anything of that nature. So we pitch ourselves in a sweet spot. So we only charge 5%, but that 5% gets you use of our platform, our Event Director platform, which is a wholly integrated platform. So real-time signups, real-time payment, data exports of all manner of information relating to the entrance, the signups, integrated mailings. Organisers can send integrated mailings to all of their event entrants at any given time. It has inbuilt voucher codes and gift card facilities. So it's a truly integrated platform, and a platform that is growing on the requirements of event organisers that use it. Because we're that kind of organisation, and we're that nimble that an organiser can come to us and say, wouldn't it be good if we had X, Y, and Z functionality? And we'll go, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And we build it in, and that's that. And it's available for everybody, which some of the larger businesses, some of the larger companies probably have to go through all manner of discussions to get that kind of functionality built in.
Yeah, like 10 rounds of approvals or whatever.
Indeed.
That's the benefit of small businesses, isn't it? You can be agile.
Very much so.
And then you can be fast. And like you say, if somebody's got a good idea, you can implement it just like that. So what are you trying to do differently than the EventEntry that you think that other people aren't doing? Is it just like the improved customer service? Is it being agile and nimble with what you're creating? Or what would you say?
It's the ability for, or as I see it, it's the number one is the ability for organisers to self-manage all of their events in one place. There is no third-party approval process. It doesn't come to a back office team to approve an event. There's no delays in that respect. All the pricing that we have is upfront. There's a calculator on the website. So when they put a price in to say it's a £30 event, for example, they know the fees that they're going to be paying upfront. Nothing is hidden away. We're a small team. We're not driven by commission. We don't have any salespeople. We don't have anybody going out cold calling that's hungry to siphon off events in the UK. That's not what the business is about. We're there to offer our expertise from being event organisers ourselves, particularly running events. But EventEntry also handles can handle entries and advanced ticketing for almost any event you could speak of.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just running events.
Yeah. Because you said you've got about 350 events, is it?
Approximately. Yeah.
About at the moment. What does some of them say, or what do they like about EventEntry then? Why do they choose you over another one? I know you may have touched upon a few points of it there, but can you just anything spring to mind of what any of them have said to you, thinking, "Oh, Craig, I love this," or "This is really good," and or maybe why have they transitioned over from another one to you and then stuck with you? Because I imagine that's a big thing, isn't it? You can get them for one event, but it's then maintaining them and keeping them over time, every month or every year, and that kind of thing.
I think it's the streamlined nature of the platform is that the organisers can put any event on. They have almost limitless control and self-management, particularly with running events. People chop and change. So if you sign up for a running event, you can't go because you've broken your leg or whatever. Entrants can self-transfer their place to somebody else. So they don't have to bother the organizer and say, "Can I transfer my place because I've broken my leg?" All of that is dealt with seamlessly and autonomously within the system. Yeah, it handles itself. EventEntry just purrs along. It's quite happy. We take spikes of 100 times usage when popular events go live. You know, we take thousands and thousands of entries on a monthly basis. I'm not saying we're the biggest in the country by any means, but the platform is mature. It's very, very stable. It's streamlined, and the organisers that use it seem to like it.
Mm. And then why do you think it's important then for the event organisers to be able to self-manage it?
Once upon a time, EventEntry it used to be a managed service.
Okay.
So
it'll take a lot of time, sure.
It did. And it got to the point where because we're a small team, it was starting to put delays in, and you know, we were stacking up events, getting events on. But the ability to have an organizer to have the ability to control pretty much 99.9% of any part of the event. So pricing, description, images, discounts, vouchers, mailings, all of that good stuff is there ready to go. And they don't have to say, "Oh, can we do this, please? Can we do that, please?" It's just there for them, and it works.
Mm. And then, so as I said then, is there any good customer feedback you've had from clients? But can you remember, is there any like events that you've had, say from the start, that have kept on for like the years and they've seen you grow and you've seen them grow at the same time? Is there anything like that? Any like success stories, should we say?
There's a couple of clients that have been with us pretty much from day one. Mm-hmm. Back in Leicestershire, there's a running league called the Leicestershire Road Running League.
Big shout out.
Thank you very much. And the vast majority of those events or those running clubs back in Leicestershire that hold events use EventEntry, and they came with us when we moved up here as well. And I guess, yeah, you know, again, they know me personally from my time at my local running club, Hermitage Harriers. And so they know who I am. They know the business. They know it's reliable. So they've stayed. And there's a couple of other businesses that are running businesses that have been with us since the early days. And it's just everything is just there in one place. I mean, there have been people come knocking on the doors, say, come to us, we'll do you a fantastic deal.
Always.
So it's those introductory offers that then just fizzle away and the service disappears with it.
Yeah.
But again, we're not about that. It's not about that.
Yeah. It must be cool though, for you and for them, to see how much it's improved and developed over time, though, isn't it? And like you say, that there is so many ticketing platforms, isn't there? And that kind of thing out there, the new ones that come in with the introductory offers, but they're choosing to stick with you because obviously they trust you and they value the service and the product over time. So yeah, that's really interesting. So then at the moment for you, how do you manage your time between Iosys and EventEntry?
The vast majority of my time is Iosys. As I say, EventEntry is pretty much self-sustaining. I dip into EventEntry when there's new features and functions that need putting in, of which Iosys develops. Because it's me.
Yeah.
It's one and the same desk.
Yeah.
But yeah, EventEntry was always developed, or the vision for EventEntry was always developed to be self-sustaining and autonomous, and that's what it is.
Nice. So then with the two businesses then, which one would you say takes up, say, I know you said Iosys takes up most of your time, but say setting up like say the back end and stuff, which one was maybe more complicated for you to do and that kind of thing? I know you said you're a bit of a geek and that stuff. Is Iosys like bread and butter, like you say, if you're just developing web apps, or is the event entry easy from setting that up? I'd imagine that'd be more difficult, is it?
No. Event entry has been a bit of an evolution, but what the guys the event entry is now because of Iosys and because of the web app technologies that we use for other clients with Iosys. So they're very much stable mates. And you couldn't have one without the other. We wouldn't have event entry without Iosys.
Yeah, I just find it so interesting, like how you create them all and then you wear the different hats and you separate them. I feel like my brain would just be like so jumbled all the time. I don't know how you do it. But yeah, I know you said you wanted to talk more about event entry today, didn't you? So if somebody is out there who's already got an event or thinking about creating an event, when would event entry be right for them? Or if they're on the fence, how would you kind of tell them or explain to them the benefits of using your software?
So I think we've already touched on a couple of things. So we as EventEntry are a wholly independent business. Again, I'm going to get a little bit geeky. The servers that we use are hosted in the UK. They're wholly hosted in the UK, so they're not overseas in any shape, way or form. We handhold for the first event. We set up the first event on behalf of the organizer.
Okay.
And then from that point forward, once the event is live, they have complete control over the event and new events going forward. The pricing that we have is completely transparent. We have a calculator on the website, evententry.co.uk. And I say we're in a sweet spot. There are competitors that are cheaper, but we're not after the cheap end of the market. I think we pitch quite right. And there are competitors that are much more expensive. There are competitors that are 10%, some even 20% of entry fee. So how they get that business is obviously they have their business models. We have our business models. But another key thing with EventEntry is that it's almost like a shopping cart as well. So it's not a platform where you enter one event and that's it, is over with. As I say, there are about 350 events listed at the moment. So if you wanted to enter 6 different events all in one go, you can enter 6 different events all in one go from completely different organisers. So you build a shopping cart up like you would on Amazon or another e-commerce site.
Sure.
And the system just processes it all in real time. We take Apple Pay, we take Google Pay, and we take PayPal, all the credit cards. It's all real time, completely autonomous, and you never have any issues. He touches wood. He touches wood.
That's cool. That's cool. So then let's go on to the next part then. I think I probably did that. Biggest mistake or biggest regret?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'd probably call them life lessons.
Everyone says this, so I'm gonna spring some questions on you after. But yeah, go.
So I wouldn't necessarily say mistakes, but life lessons. And I think in the past, I've been far too trusting of people up front.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
naive, maybe.
Indeed. And it has come home to bite me once. And it was a very, very close friend. And and it wasn't a very nice time.
Mm.
So now I look at particularly new people or new situations with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Always.
And I let my guard down very gingerly before I in inverted commas trust people.
Mm.
And the other lesson, really, life lesson I've learned is to have confidence in your pricing in your business.
Sure.
If you pick a price and you're passionate about what you do as a business and you're the service and you see it has value, then just don't accept being chipped on price. Because invariably, if you do, and it has happened to me a number of times as the business was growing, particularly, is that you accept a job based on a chipped price and it always ends up being more trouble than it's worth.
Oh, I was literally going to say that. I was literally going to say, the friends thing. Don't do business with friends. An absolute recipe for disaster. And the pricing, if people are bothered about the price and you give them some form of discount, they're going to cause you far more headache and far more work.
Always.
And it's always the ones who will pay more who are the less headache because they've got more important things to be doing with their time than fanning on with whatever you're doing. That's just from my experience anyway.
Well, price and value is very different.
Yeah. And I think as well, if you're saying, quoting a specific price, like, and they don't want to go for it or whatever, they want a cheaper price, just maybe not the right person that you should be working with. There's far more people out there that, like you say, it's perceived value of something, isn't it? But yeah, you learn that over time, I think.
Very much so.
I learned that over time as well. Next one is, what's your biggest strength and your biggest weakness? You just say, personally. Put you on the spot here. I don't think I sent you this as prep.
My biggest personal weakness is my love for food.
Really?
To be honest, I absolutely love this stuff. And sometimes I wish I did.
Anything specifically? Sweet or savoury? Or
I'd say savoury. I do have a sweet tooth, but it's changey.
Okay.
But my strengths, I don't know about personal strengths. I guess if anything, that the Bred 10 in 10, it puts you in places that you never, in your own mind, that you never knew existed. It is very much a roller coaster. You know, one day you could be on top of the world and euphoric, and the next day you're in the depths of despair. Genuinely. And the event puts you through that, and you find out a lot about the type of person you are, and the sort of the real kind of mental strength that you really didn't know existed previously. And the 10 in 10 showed me that.
It's UVU, isn't it?
It is very much so. And there was times of the first time around in 2013 that I could quite easily have pulled out and finished, but it was never about letting myself down. It was always about, what if I pull out, I'm going to let so many other people down, so many supporters, and let the charity down, everybody that's sponsored me up front. And that was the driving thing. It teaches you a lot about yourself.
Last one. What makes you happy? What makes Craig happy, would you say?
Wow.
You're getting deep.
That makes me happy. I don't have many wishes or wants nowadays, to be fair. I think for example, money is not a driver for me. It never has been. Even when and I found that out before I left the day job, that money was not my driver. It was achievement and the recognition for achievement.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. And even today, money's not a driver. The fact that I can, as a business, that we can produce something from nothing that another company has massive benefit from, and it improves their business through efficiency or cost effectiveness or whatever the system that we've developed is, that gives me a lot of satisfaction. But I don't have big one. I don't have sports car. I don't have a holiday villa anywhere. That I'd quite enjoy going out on the fells, or we have mountain bikes. We go out biking with friends at weekends, and it's just get out.
Yeah. Simple things.
It is.
So then let's do some plugs then. Where can people find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
Websites. If you're looking for a business web app or a website that integrates with back office systems, iosys.co.uk, iosys.co.uk. If you're an event organizer and you're looking for online entry, or if you're looking for alternative online entry, or you think you're paying too much for online entry, then go to EventEntry.co.uk. Similar social media feeds on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Craig Johnson on LinkedIn.
Cool. Right. Thank you very much, Craig. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment your favorite part. Any questions for Craig, leave them in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. We'll see you next time. Bye, 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 bye.